Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Marganti yate mukapadmani daish Chanda suparnair shayo vibhikte Yasyagamarsho dasadidvaraya Padam padam tirtha pada prapanna Marganti, searching after, yat, as, te, your, mukapadma, lotus-like face, nidai, by those who have taken shelter of such a lotus flower, chanda, Vedic hymns, suparnai, by the wings, rishaya, the sages, vivikte, in clear mind, yasya, whose, agamarsha uda, that which offers freedom from all reactions to sin. Sadit, rivers, varaya, in the best, padam padam, in every step, tirtha pada, one whose lotus feet are as good as a place of pilgrimage, prapanna, taking shelter. The lotus feet of the Lord are themselves the shelter of all places of pilgrimage. The great clear-minded sages, carried by the wings of the Vedas, always search after the nest of your lotus-like face. Some of them surrender unto your lotus feet at every step by taking shelter of the best of the rivers, the Ganges, which can deliver one from all sinful reactions. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Paramhamsas are compared to royal swans who make their nests on the petals of the lotus flower. The Lord's transcendental bodily parts are always compared to the lotus flower because in the material world the lotus flower is the last word in beauty. The most beautiful thing in the world is the Vedas, or Bhagavad Gita, because therein knowledge is imparted by the personality of Godhead Himself. The Paramhamsa makes his nest in the lotus-like face of the Lord and always seeks shelter at His lotus feet, which are reached by the wings of Vedic wisdom. Since the Lord is the original source of all emanations, intelligent persons, enlightened by Vedic knowledge, seek shelter of the Lord, just as birds who leave the nest again search out the nest to take complete rest. All Vedic knowledge is meant for understanding the Supreme Lord, as stated by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita. Vedaishcha sarver aham eva vedya. Intelligent persons who are like swans take shelter of the Lord by all means and do not hover on the mental plane by fruitlessly speculating on different philosophies. The Lord is so kind that he has spread the river Ganges throughout the universe, so that by taking bath in that holy river, everyone can get release from the reactions of sins, which occur at every step. There are many rivers in the world which are able to evoke one's sense of God consciousness simply by one's bathing in them. And the river Ganges is the chief amongst them. In India there are 5 sacred rivers, but the Ganges is the most sacred. The river Ganges and Bhagavad Gita are chief sources of transcendental happiness for mankind, and intelligent persons can take shelter of them to go back home, back to Godhead. Even Sripad Shankaracharya recommends that a little knowledge in Bhagavad Gita and the drinking of a little quantity of Ganges water can save one from the punishment of Yamaraj. Hare Krishna. I am very grateful to be with all of you. This auspicious, holy place of Prayag, as we are gathering for the Kumbh Mela. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, entitled Vidura's Talks with Maitreya, text 41. In this beautiful verse and purport, it is giving an explanation of what is a Paramhamsa. There is a particular type of swan that only drinks nectar from the lotus flower. The lotus, Srila Prabhupada explains here, is the symbol of beauty within this material world. And Krishna, all parts of him are compared to a lotus because they are supremely beautiful. And Krishna manifests himself in many ways in this world. Especially it is focused in this verse through his words of the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, and the river Ganges. So those who are Paramhamsas, they are not really concerned with anything except seeking shelter of the beauty, the grace of the Supreme Lord through drinking the water of the Ganges and drinking the nectar from these holy scriptures and enchanting the holy names. When Ramchandra was living, or when he was traveling through Prayag, he proclaimed it Prayagraj, the king of all holy places. I was asked to speak something about the Kumbh Mela. I'd like to begin by briefly speaking some of the history of our own beloved Guru Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada's pastimes in Allahabad. We know of that historical event in 1922 when Srila Prabhupada was recently married, had a child, and his friend Narendra pleaded with him, "Come, there's a very great sadhu who is speaking tonight." Srila Prabhupada, his father would invite sadhus every night to their house. And so he wasn't so interested because there's so many different kinds of sadhus. He said, no, this one is really very special. So to please his friend, he went to this rooftop. The address was 1 Ultadunga Junction Road. And there, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was sitting under the shade of a jackfruit tree, speaking from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Prabhupada, who was then Abhay Charan, he bowed down along with his friends. And before even coming to sit down, he received an instruction. You are an intelligent young man. You should take the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the whole world in the English language. After some discussion took place, in his heart of hearts, Srila Prabhupada considered, this is a genuine holy man. The message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in good hands with him. And in his heart of hearts, Srila Prabhupada then accepted him as his eternal master, father, his spiritual master. The next year, in 1923, for business purposes, Srila Prabhupada relocated his family to Allahabad. And here he opened up the Prayag pharmacy. And he found one very good doctor named Dr. Ghosh. And Srila Prabhupada convinced him that you be the doctor, close down your clinic, move into my pharmacy, and you diagnose people and then make a prescription for the medicines at this pharmacy. And in this way we will work together. And he was doing quite nicely. And because Abhay was such a spiritual person of such dignity, he gained tremendous respect by everyone here. About 5 years later, in 1928, the Kumbh Mela was being celebrated at Prayag. One Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj, one of the senior most disciples of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, came with a group of brahmacharis for the Kumbh Mela. He met with Abhay, came to Prayag pharmacy, and our Srila Prabhupada immediately recognized him. This personality was so instrumental. Bhakti Pradeep Tirtha Maharaj was a disciple of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, who took sannyas from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And it was he that first met Narendra, Prabhupada's friend, and preached to him. And it was he that brought Narendra to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who later brought Srila Prabhupada there. So Prabhupada recognized him and was very happy. After the Kumbh Mela, Bhakti Pradip Tirtha Maharaj left 6 of his brahmacharis here to start a temple. The leader was Atulananda Brahmachari. One day, Atulananda Brahmachari came to the Prayag pharmacy asking Srila Prabhupada for some help. And he found out that they actually was opening a center. So our Srila Prabhupada, who was then a bhai, he would regularly go there. And they were fascinated to see. When they were singing kirtan, Prabhupada picked up the mridanga and could play like nobody else could play. And soon not only was he their main mridanga player, but he was leading kirtans and he was speaking so beautifully. In this way, Srila Prabhupada lived in Prayag, year after year, performing his family duties and helping his Guru's mission. 1932, in the month of Kartik, he heard that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was taking thousands and thousands of people on a parikrama of Braj Bhumi. So Srila Prabhupada took a train to join them. And he met his Guru at Koshi. There people were gathered. And there was an announcement that they were going on a trip to a holy place, Sheshashai, and everybody who wants to go should please come. And at the same time, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would be speaking. So only a few people stayed for his speaking. And he spoke for hours and hours and hours, and Srila Prabhupada with Sridhar Maharaj and a few others just sat. People were coming and going and coming and going, but he listened. He said he was speaking such high language and such high philosophy. But he felt completely at home in the shelter of his Guru, sitting at his lotus feet. About a month later, here in Allahabad, Atulananda Brahmachari came to Srila Prabhupada's shop and told him that we are going to be having a cornerstone laying ceremony for a new temple we will build. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will come. And I'd like to recommend you for initiation. So it was here at that event where they were beginning the Sri Rupa Gaudiya Math that Abai was brought before Srila Saraswati Thakur and was recommended for initiation. Saraswati Thakur looked at him and said, "This boy, he likes to hear. He does not go away. And someday he will be good." Because he would say, one who is expert at hearing will be an expert in speaking. And it was here at the Sri Rupa Gaudiya Math in Prayag that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave Srila Prabhupada both the Harinam and the Gayatri Diksha, and added the name Aravinda, lotus, to his name, which became Abhay Charanaravinda. That was in 1932. Things happened with his pharmacy, and Srila Prabhupada left his family here in Allahabad and shifted to Mumbai, Bombay. there almost immediately, two of his godbrothers, Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Maharaj and Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj, had come to start a temple in Bombay. And Srila Prabhupada was right with them, going house to house, having kirtans, giving talks, generating interest. In 1935, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was invited to Bombay to install the deities. And at that time, Srila Prabhupada wasn't present during this conversation. But Bhakti Sharanga Goswami Maharaj told Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that this Abhay Charanavinda, he's the main person who established this temple. His preaching, his kirtan, his organization, his networking with people, he has inspired so much interest. He should be the president of this temple. And his Guru Maharaj replied, "Let him be as he is. He will do everything in due course of time. There's no need to recommend him for something else." And when his godbrothers told him this, Srila Prabhupada took those words so deeply and reflected upon them within his heart. While his family was in Allahabad and he was in Bombay, was that famous Vyas Puja of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where Prabhupada read a beautiful poem, Adore Ye, Adore Ye. And within it was one stanza. Absolute is sentient thou hast proved, impersonal calamity thou hast removed. When that was read to his Guru Maharaj, Srila Saraswati Thakur, he was so pleased. He would read it out to so many people in so many places and say that Abhay Charanavinda has really understood the essence of what I have come to give. Whatever he writes, publish it. Soon after, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur became quite ill physically. Srila Prabhupada wrote him a letter. It was in 1936. That you have so many disciples who are brahmacharis, who are sannyasis, who are fully giving every bit of their energy in your loving service. I'm a family person with an occupation and a family to provide for. I'm not able to do what they're doing. How can I serve you? About 2 weeks later, Srila Prabhupada got an answer with the same instruction he received in 1922 at their first meeting. Share the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with the people of the English language and spread this mission all over the world. And soon after that, in Jagannath Puri, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada departed from this world. That was his first and last exchange with his Guru Maharaj. The same order. In 1965, Srila Prabhupada, who was living at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, left his most auspicious, holy, comfortable home, went to Bombay. Actually, just a few days ago, I was in Agra. And I was remembering this incident. Where Srila Prabhupada was, while he was living in Vrindavan, he gave a talk at a Mr. Agarwal's house. And afterward, the two of them were sitting and talking, and Mr. Agarwal was in great anxiety. He expressed it to Srila Prabhupada. He said, "My son, Gopal, he left India and went to America chasing after materialistic things, got his degree in engineering, and then got trapped by an American woman. And now he will not come back to India. He wants to live in America." He was asking Prabhupada for some blessings or some guidance of how to get his son back. Srila Prabhupada replied, "Oh, he is in America? Can he sponsor a visa for me?" He was meditating on the order of his guru constantly. Mr. Agarwal was shocked. He didn't say a word, and Prabhupada never brought up the subject again. But some months later, somebody came with a message from the American embassy that he had a sponsorship for a visa. So he took this as Krishna's will. He went to Mumbai. Sumati Morarji, who was the managing trustee of the Srinathji temple of the Pushti Marg of Sri Vallabhacharya, she gave Srila Prabhupada was lecturing at her house regularly at Juhu. And she gave him a free passage on a cargo ship, the Jaladuta. And there, after 38 days at seas, heart attack, seasickness, and so many difficulties, he lived in Butler, Pennsylvania for some time, about a month, then to New York City. He struggled alone and eventually established a little storefront and a few followers. In 1970, he brought about 40 of his devotees from various parts of the world to India to establish in a wonderful way Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement throughout. And very soon after they arrived, in January of 1971, was the Ard Kumbh Mela. Every 12 years is a Mahakumbh Mela. Every 6 years is the Ard Kumbh Mela. And every year is the Magh Mela. Srila Prabhupada explained how important it was that they all go there. Somebody asked Srila Prabhupada, "We have heard that if someone bathes in the confluence of the Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati at the time of the Kumbh Mela, that they will get liberated. Is that true?" Srila Prabhupada said, "Yes, it is true. One will get liberated from all one's sins. But that is not the reason we are going. We are not concerned with liberation. If we are chanting the holy names and engaging in the service of the Lord, we are already liberated. We are going to share this message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with everyone. We are going to preach. That is our purpose." Now, while they were in India, the devotees were staying at life members' houses at that time, and when they came to Kumbh Mela, that year it was extremely cold, extremely foggy. And they didn't have this electricity like we have now. Everyone was just living in little tents. There was about millions and millions of people there. And Srila Prabhupada was very excited. And his disciples explain how it was so cold in the early mornings. They were having Mangal Arti, and many of them were not coming. They just wanted to stay in their sleeping bags and be warm. And Srila Prabhupada says, why are they not coming? So they are too cold. Srila Prabhupada didn't say anything. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, he himself, even though he was not in good health, he was so old, he would go to the Ganga or to a pump and take an ice-cold bath and be there for the program. And by that example, every single person was out of their sleeping bags, took an ice-cold bath, and was present for the Mangal Arati. Every evening, morning and evening, Srila Prabhupada would speak. In the mornings, he would speak in English, and in the evening in Hindi. He was speaking from the Srimad Bhagavatam 6th canto, the story of Ajamil. And was especially focusing on the importance of the chanting of the holy names. We all know the story of Ajamil. He was born an elevated Brahmin birth, but due to the wrong association, he completely neglected his spiritual responsibilities, became totally addicted to greed, to envy, to lust, to anger, and was totally in illusion. But because of his past good deeds, at the moment when he was about to die in his old age, he called out his youngest son's name, Narayan. And in doing so, remembered Narayan and became completely liberated of all his sins and was given the chance to perfect his life, which he did. Here in Kumbh Mela 1971, Srila Prabhupada was describing from Jiva Goswami's works the glories of the holy name. That when one actually realizes the grace of the holy name, the name will manifest Krishna's unlimitedly beautiful form. The name will manifest Krishna's unlimited, transcendently attractive qualities. The name will manifest Krishna's pastimes in the spiritual world. Krishna's love, Krishna's mercy, Krishna's abode of Vrindavan, everything could be manifested if we chant the holy name seriously, without offense. Namachintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. That the name of Krishna is none different than Krishna. There is no other religious ritual or formula that is required. In the path of bhakti, all other spiritual rituals are simply meant to ultimately put us in the proper consciousness to humble ourselves before the holy name as we, from our heart of hearts, chant. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Therefore, this Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for all humanity. And it is the supreme gift of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to all the world. The devotees were telling Srila Prabhupada about the different kinds of yogis they were seeing at the Kumbh Mela. Some people were laying in beds of razor-sharp thorns from sunrise to sunset. Some were in a particular very difficult yoga asana all day long. Some were kind of buried underground. They asked Srila Prabhupada about these yogis. Srila Prabhupada said that there are some, he said, I have seen some of these yogis, they bathe, they go down in the Ganga, in the Himalayas, and they come up at Prayag. Then they go down at Prayag, and they come up at the Godavari. Then they go down in the Godavari, and they go in the Krishna River. He said, these are mystics. You do not know who they are. Some are hundreds of years old. Srila Prabhupada said, be careful to offer respect to everyone here. But he explained that our purpose is not mystic powers. Our purpose is not even liberation. Our purpose is simply to chant the names of Krishna, develop love of Krishna, and share this love for Krishna with everyone. That was 1971. Although there were so many speakers and so many yogis at Kumbh Mela, so many pundits and scholars, Srila Prabhupada had his devotees go on Harinam Sankirtan. First time they've ever seen this. And Srila Prabhupada personally led the kirtan party. He went out with the devotees and they were singing and dancing, and that took the whole Kumbh Mela by storm. Everyone was enchanted. They were enthralled. People of India had never seen this before. Boys and girls from all over the world were chanting in the streets of the Kumbh Mela, loudly, sincerely crying out the names of Krishna. Hundreds and hundreds of people were coming to Srila Prabhupada's classes every morning and every evening. In 1977, Srila Prabhupada was very ill. But still, there was a Kumbh Mela, a full Kumbh Mela. So Srila Prabhupada, even though his disciples were saying, no, no, it is too cold, you should not go, Srila Prabhupada came here. And very briefly, when he arrived, he found that it was quite a bad location. And when it came for serving prasad, not only to the devotees, but to the people in general, there was hardly any bhoga or food to cook. Srila Prabhupada was extremely strong. He said, we must serve nice prasad to everyone. Why you're so busy thinking about yourselves? Why did you not arrange prasad for everyone? He said, you go, you spend 5 rupees to go to a market, you spend 5 rupees to come back for the market, and you spend 1 rupee to get some vegetables. This is your disease mentality. There should be plenty for everyone. And it was here in Allahabad, when Srila Prabhupada saw how the devotees were so irresponsible in this regard, he wrote a famous letter. I remember where I was in America when that letter came. It was so strong. He wasn't just talking about Prayag, but inspired by the lack of prasad at Kumbh Mela, he wrote that every single temple worldwide must have wonderful prasad for every person that comes to the temple. It was his order. He said you should have puris, sabji, halava, pakoras. Minimum, sabji, puri, and halava.